And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
Sign-ups up there.
Okay, well, folks, thanks for coming for yet some more, and thanks for coming to stay so long. And
sign up.
Where you are, if you're not familiar, is that our farewell mic. This is also, like everything else around here, grown into something fairly manageable. So anybody who's performed this weekend on the stage, Fisher Poets, welcome to participate. And there's quite a list that grows, sometimes as many as 50 of us. So we ask that everybody keep their readings to 5 minutes. You're getting better and better at doing that. And as anybody who's been an MC who's found him or herself in an awkward position of trying to reel somebody else in, which I don't know why that's a problem, because anybody who's ever had to get a net out of the water with fishing game idling alongside knows how to get a stinking net out of the water and knows the consequences of not doing so. So, but we all hate fishing game, you know, so that doesn't mean you make the MC be fishing game, and that's a dirty thing to do to them. So what we do, and somebody, I can't remember who, it was a brilliant idea, what we do at 5 minutes is we start to clap. And we thank people for participating and doing that. Now I'm gonna start clapping at 5 minutes. Don't hang me out to dry there, all right? One year I was explaining the rules and Ron McDaniel started clapping and I realized I'd been more than 5 minutes. So it's pretty simple. I'll have the sign up maybe over there in that seat there if you want to come up. If you come in, sign on up. And then we'll say goodbye. And before we do, some might have to leave early. Josh Staley and his crew here at the Columbian Theater really work hard from the very beginning to now the very end to make us feel welcome here. So thanks. Clint and his sound crew take care of several venues around here, and Jay knows more about that than I do, except I know that they work just as hard and have done a super job making us sound better than we really are. So thank you very much to them too. Okay, I got 20 seconds and I don't need them. So first up is
Steve Schoonmaker.
Steve Schoonmaker's up. Cat Murphy is on deck, and John Lee is in the hole. Just come on up one after the other.
First time I've been first. Short one. When I came in the festival, I had this poem about getting old and getting out of fishing. The one I'm going to share with you, I wrote like 15 years ago when it was on the low, you know. It's called Stay. Opens a sky of pink and gray blue. Glitters of frost that last week was due. Showered in leaves as breezes come through. So ends the summer. What's grown is what grew. My boat's on a trailer, my net's in a bag. I made her back safely, not much to brag. Yeah, I've seen better summers. I know I've seen worse. I'm kind of a winner, except there's no purse. Well, I picked out a fair jag, yeah, I made some nice sets. Not much to take home, just paid up some debts. Some people see trouble with fishing today. And talking with me, they ask why I stay. Well, we call it our lifestyle. That's why we stay. That's why we borrow and hope we can pay. Well, it's gotten a lot tougher, but then so am I. With lower expectations, I just live on less pie. But you know, there's still nothing like it. It's my hand on the wheel. I'm not leashed by a boss. I don't have to heal. I'm out in the scenes on some beautiful bay. Yeah, I'm paid for my troubles, and in more than one way. Go think like a salmon, and try to go back to thinking like a goldfish. You'll know where I'm at. Maybe I'll stay broke. What can I say? At least I'm not broken. That's why I stay.
This poem is called Salmon Cycle. The rivers flow and salmon swim, heading out to vast open sea. As I untie my boat from familiar shores, each bring a pull within me. Flashes of silver refract through clear blue waters. I haul them up, one by one. Salmon chase herring, I chase salmon. We meet in ocean under summer sun. In fall we part to make our runs, I home with food, salmon to spawn. Time contracts for the singular goal, home, heart, hope to call upon. Thank you.
Brad Warren's on deck, and Laura Messer-Smith-Glavin is in the hold. Give us your name again, would you, folks? Thank you.
I'm John Lee. Oops, that wasn't very professional. Sometimes at night, when the heavens are bright, from the light of the glittering stars, have I stood here amazed, and I ask, as I gaze, if their glory exceeds that of ours. I am an old sailor, I work on the sea. My cook and my crew are like family to me. They'll eat in the galley, they'll sleep in the forecastle. We're just waiting for summer waters to change. And as the moon rises, I spark up a fire. Think about my woman and cases of beer. Close my eyes as the dolphins retire. I sing out a song which is soft but it's clear, as if maybe someone could hear. I sing good night, you moonlight ladies. Rockabye, sweet Scotty Mac. Deep greens and blues, that's the colors I choose. Won't you let me go down in my dreams and rockabye, sweet Scotty Mac. One night, we're watching the wheelhouse. Graveyard shift midnight till dawn. When the moon was as bright as a reading light for a letter from an old friend back home. And he asked, why do you fish for your money? Tell me, why do you set for short pay? You ain't getting nowhere, you're just losing your share. Boy, you must have gone crazy out there. But he's never seen the northern lights. He's never seen a flock on the wing. He's never seen spring hit the icy straits. Boy, he's never heard a galley cook sing, and he sings, "Good night, you moonlight ladies. Rockabye, sweet Scotty Mac. Country and blues, that's the music I choose. Won't you let me go down in my dreams?" Oh, the air is so pure, and the zephyr so free, and a soft wind so balmy and bright. Not a thing would I change, not a life I'd exchange for my time on the Hawaii.
Jeff Carr, you follow Laura.
All right. I had a request for this one. I was not going to do it, but it might work. It's called Deep, Steady, and Sound, and those are words you can sing on if you want to. They're pretty easy. Thank you, Nancy. So I can make my eyeballs read that. All right. That'll work better. You can hear that better? My grandfather's river fed every family in town. Fish ran through our bloodlines, deep, steady, and sound. Deep, steady, and sound. Deep, steady, and sound. You guys are good, you're already on it. I'll just do that again. Deep, steady, and sound. Deep, steady, and sound. Deep, steady, and deep, steady, and deep, steady, and sound. There'll be that variant you'll hear. High up in the mountains, creeks tumble and join. Many songs flow together. Deep, steady, and sound. Deep, steady, and sound. Deep, steady, and sound. Fish come in winter, spring, summer, and fall. Fatten up in the ocean, they keep the forest tall. My grandfather's river ran strong and clean through mountains and canyons. She gathered the stream all the way down. She watered the land, touched every valley with a generous hand. Song of the highlands, song of the sea. They meet at the river mouth. They make a symphony. Fish, song may go quiet. Fish may not always come around, but this river, she's waiting. Deep, steady and sound. Deep, steady and sound. Deep, steady and deep, steady and deep, steady and sound. Fish jump in the channel. Fish jump in the stream. Bring the blue of the ocean back to the forest green. My grandfather's river ran strong and clean through mountains and canyons. She gathered the stream all the way down. She watered the land, touched every valley with a generous hand. River still knows how, still sings the old song. She will wash out the dams one day, deep, steady and sound. Deep, steady and sound. Deep, steady and deep, steady and deep, steady and sound. Thank you to all the Fisher poets and all the cowboy poets and all the working folk poets who've been blessing us this many years. And thank you all for being here.
Jeff Carr's on deck, and I hope you're in the hole.
That's a couple of tough acts to follow. You all know I can't read without my hands, so give me just a second. All right. My name is Laura Messersmith-Clavin. I grew up sailing out of Kodiak. Hello. I remember the time we caught the shark. It was trapped in the net, thrashing wildly against the side of the boat. It had torn its way in to get at the salmon, but it couldn't seem to tear its way out again. You can't heave a live shark onto the deck of a working fishing boat, and it was so wrapped up in the web that we couldn't get it out. So my dad got out his handgun and shot it twice to the head. Bang, bang! And the thrashing slowed. And then bang! He shot it again, and the shark stopped moving. It floated there, dull and huge against the side. We lowered a clip, and a deckhand leaned way out and looped the line around the shark's tail, clipping the line back onto itself and making a neat cinch. The hydraulics wheezed and shrieked as we heaved the body on board. It stretched nearly the whole length of the open surface of the deck, over 10 feet long. Another deckhand got on top of it and crammed a deck bucket over the thing's snout, riding it like a horse. He could barely swing his leg over its girth. Yee-haw! He squealed, swinging an invisible lasso. And then the shark twitched. And he leapt up and got back on the stack, and the body shivered a few times and made a few weak swimming motions and then flopped still. Its eye was facing up, and I remember how utterly flat it was, how totally devoid of any flicker or thought that I could recognize. I could see its teeth. When the set was over, my dad called me over and grabbed a knife, and we slit the shark's belly from chin to stern so that I could see what it had on the inside. I remember there was so much blood, more than it looked like a shark body could possibly hold, and it was cold, and it gushed out and flooded the deck, and I was kneeling beside it, and the blood immediately rushed up the pant leg of my rain gear and poured into my boots. I was fascinated, though, pawing at the enormous innards. It was cleaner than you'd think, all liver and big organs, none of the messy mush and bits of dead sea lion everywhere that I'd expected. And one by one, we heaved aside the big parts of it, naming their function, until we got to the heart. The heart was still beating. I was horrified. Not that there was something grotesque about a beating heart. On the contrary, it was beautiful, amazing. I was horrified because we had gutted this creature while it was apparently still alive, still buzzing with whatever faint electrical static was left crackling in its nerves. We cut the heart out and set it on the deck beneath the rollers, and it sat there and continued to pump free of its body for the next 2 sets. Thank you.
I want to use an iPhone, but I can't see, and my hands shake. So, you know, they're really hard when you get older. Typeface is so small, so I'm sticking with paper right now. Okay, just a short poem. It's called Keeping Course. Your skin, the hull, your head, the wheel, your heart, the main. And you, the ship, caulked and painted, motoring on. Reefs, rocks, tidal bore, the southeast wind on us all. You on your charted course, pushing aside danger, knowing a piece of you in watertight compartments keeps the ballast steady, the weight on the keel, the bow surging through waves. Thanks.
I need a hand with arranging mics, though.
Doug Rhodes, you're going to follow Hope, and Nancy Cook, you're going to follow Doug.
Oh, there's no hand. Pretty good. Can you all hear me? So, as you know, our friend Jon Broderick is always asking, have you brought something new for us? When I saw him in the parking lot at the co-op a couple weeks ago, I said, yeah, I'm working on it. I had this tune and the words came to me in the shower. And he said, oh, when that happens to me, they're gone by the time I get anything to write it down, so. that's the start of a process. And this is a song about the glory days of the Columbia River fishery, the Columbia River commercial salmon gillnet fishery. And there are a couple of definitions that are going to help you. The two main types of nets that were used on the Columbia River were the floater and the diver. The floater fished the top of the water column on the flood tide. The diver fished the bottom of the water column on the ebb tide when the fish sound to get out of the current of the river. And a cowbell is not what you think. A cowbell is an aluminum float used on the cork line of a diver net, so named because that's the sound it made when it came over the roller. Remember the time when the fishing was good, the nets made of linen, the boats made of wood. Seasons were set for weeks upon end, with Saturday closures, the nets for the men's. Nets were designed to fish on each ground. Floaters or divers were those to be found, with lead line and cork line balanced just so to fish at the depth intended to go. Remember the time when the fishing was good, the nets made of linen, the boats made of wood. Seasons were set for weeks upon end, with Saturday closures, the nets for the men. Floaters on the flood and divers the ebb, each fisherman knew how to hang his own web to his own design, just how it was done. He kept to himself and shared with no one. Remember the time when the fishing was good, the nets made of linen, the boats made of wood. Seasons were set for weeks upon end, with Saturday closures, the nets for the men. Cedar soap with paraffin floated just fine, with leads to be molded to hang on the line. Aluminum cowbells sank with the tide, so the leads upon the bottom could ride. Remember the time when the fishing was good, the nets made of linen, the boats made of wood. Seasons were set for weeks upon end, with Saturday closures, the nets for the men. Remember the time when the fishing was good, the nets made of linen, the boats made of wood. Seasons were set for weeks upon end, with Saturday closures, the nets for the men.
Okay, I had a poem I was going to do. My wife and I just got back from Baja Camp, and I had a poem about some guys on the beach down there, but I just had a request, and I guess it kind of goes along with all of the fishing stuff and prices. Back in 2000, I think early 2000, fish prices kind of went in the crapper, and then kind of looks like maybe fish prices are back in the crapper. We don't know, so we're going to pull this one out. I saw a bargain in our hardware store this summer during a southeast gale where you could buy 25 pounds of manure for $4.95 on sale. Now, I don't know if that's a good price or not. If I needed manure, I guess I'd pick it, but having just come in from gill netting, I took another look at my fish ticket. And there, on the pink fisherman's copy, under silver salmon in the round, was a price I still can't comprehend. I sold them at 5 cents a pound. Oh. Quickly, I did the math on the manure. 19 cents a pound. I threw a fit. How could my big, beautiful co-host be worth 4 times less than shit? Something's got to be done with these fish prices, or we might as well all quit, because the prices we got that summer, our fish weren't worth shit.
Hermanson, you're in the, so you're on deck, yeah, on deck. And Laura,
Right.
You're in the hole.
It's the morning of changing plans. I'm Nancy Cook. Laura's thing made me remember that beautiful girl many of you guys cheered on last night. I prayed for her by swallowing a still beaten salmon heart, the one that goes, sockeye flesh is red, swallow a beating heart. His daughter's eyes are blue. Anyway, this gathering's got me hooked through the gill, right down to my keel. Once again, you guys have bled my heart. And even if a skipper throws me in his blast freezer, I know I can thaw out and eat my fill. So thank you so much. I was gonna do a little bit of activism, because I often do that because it's so important, but just go find your Hip Fish Monthly. The Fish Citizen is gonna be a regular column right now, and if you have information about citizen engagement, get it to me or Dinah, because we really want Hip Fish to be a place for unity. And on that note, I'm wearing a new shirt, rising from the ashes. Stand up there, Amy Sharp. If you don't know this woman, she is amazing. She's starting this Fisher Community Alliance for the Columbia Pacific, Fishermen's Wives and more.
Get involved!
Get involved. My plan is that this time next year, every old pickup and electric car on the streets is gonna have a Fish Her Unity sticker on it. And it won't be paid for by Weyerhaeuser or Betsy Johnson's Billions. So it's really important, truly, and I would like to hear you say 3 times, fish are forest products too. 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 And Brad named it. Those forests need our fish just as much as our fish need those forests. So each day is the blank slate, and I didn't get to sing that much this time, so I want to sing this one. It's a sea shanty. We're gonna do it short form, but just picture that beach out there and all the opportunities, and you're stomping around and they show little donuts to say, here's an opportunity to get involved. It goes, it's a minus tide. Is that the right spot? It's a minus tide this morning. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. It's a minus tide this morning. I'll be there. That's your chorus. Let's hear it. It's a minus tide this morning. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. It's a minus tide this morning. I'll be there. Even though I started too high. Look east the dune. Look west the surf. Wait a second. What's going on here? Oh, that comes after the it's a minus tide. Look east the dune, look west the surf. Arrive, arrive, arriving. And down beneath the sand, the clams hide cold within dark spit. What do, May? How do you start over at a lower note? It's a minus. Look east the dune, look west the surf, arriving. And down beneath the sand, the clams hide cold within dark spit. Some stomp until a dimple shows, a prize for those with grit. It's a minus tide this morning. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there. It's a minus tide this morning. We'll be there. With shovel, gun, and bag of mesh, we gather all as one. The young, the old, the poor boys rich, diggers heed the call. Dig fast, my lad, reach quick to grab by valve, twixt thumb and finger. With one long tug, the life is yours, thrown on the sand with laughter. It's a minus tide this morning. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there. It's a minus tide this morning. We'll be there. With sacrum stiff and shoulder ache, we trudge back to the truck. A limit, yes, or maybe just wild fullness in our hearts. The faucet runs for hours as we clean the grit and grime. First flour, then egg, then cracker crumb. A pan-fried feast is fine. It's a minus tide this morning. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there. It's a minus tide this morning. We'll be there. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Nancy, do the great soprano.
Lori follows Measy. Ron McDaniel follows Lori.
So, Measy Hermanson, I'm a cook inlet set netter. First, I'd like to just thank everyone who puts this on so that we can just land, deliver, and shove back off. This is an amazing event. And so, this one is shaped by salmon. My life has been shaped by salmon, by the wind and the waves, the salt in the sprays, the sand on the beach and the sou'wester's reach, by shimmering scales and sightings of whales and anchors and buoys and corks and leads, kings and silvers and pinks and reds. My life has been shaped by salmon. My life has been shaped by salmon, by cook inlet tides and bumpy skiff rides, the seagulls' calls, those early morning sets, water hauls and plugged full nets, slickers and hip boots and days in the sun, mug-ups and grub-ups and meals on the run, by cribbage games and pilot bread, Kenai Peninsula's watersheds. My life has been shaped by salmon. My life has been shaped by salmon, by shackles of mesh and running lines and mending needles and mending twine, the swells that roll on and people now gone, by seasons ever shrinking with regulatory inking, which leaves me to ponder what happens up yonder to a life that was shaped by salmon. Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, I'm going to read something that none of you have ever heard before. This is Come With Me to the Fairweather Grounds that my husband, Smitty, Harrison Smitty Smith, wrote and made these books in the early 70s and was giving them away to all his fisherman friend. And since we've been coming to Fisher Poets from the very beginning, he was always reading his newer work, and so a lot of it was very good. But I wanted to read to you a Fairweather trilogy, and it's all handwritten in big letters. Okay, so this is from Smitty from a long time ago. A Fairweather trilogy. First season. My wife said to me, "You old goat, I surely need a brand new coat. You better catch some fish this season or I'm gonna know the reason." So I went to see my old pal Carl. He'd get me out of this financial snarl. Carl said, "Come with me to the Fairweather ground. That is where the fish abound. I'll show you how to plug your boat and buy your wife a brand new coat." So I went with Carl to the Fairweather ground, but there were no fish around. I cursed and cried till I was hoarse in the throat to think my wife would wear her last year's coat. You may think I've lost my reason, the things I've done this fishing season. I followed Carl to the outer bank and happily paid for the fuel in the tank. But Carl said, "Smitty, don't you worry, it's tuna time, so let's hurry. Everything will be just fine. Tie these feathers on your line and come with me to the Delwood Hills. I'll show you how to pay your bills." So I went with Carl to those offshore knolls, but there were no tuna on my poles. Carl said, "Smitty, never fear, there are no bill collectors here. You'll see how the money flows. Follow me to the compass rose." Arriving at this distant spot, we were there, the tuna not. Burning fuel at a terrible rate, season's over, it's too late, but Carl says, smiling full of glee, "Wait till next spring and follow me." Second season. Another season now has passed. My wife speaks to me at last. In fact, she is at my side as we toward Alaska ride. I might add, still without that coat. A non-provider, this old goat, but I have hopes that on this boat, I'll pull fish till it will barely float, exchanging them for dollar bills and save at once my marriage ills. But every plan has some sort of failing. Over the radio comes Carl's voice wailing, "Go, go, girls," he begins naming, "my reputation staining. My wife's ears are twitching at me. She is bitching. She says, "My coat's in tattered stitching while you go and go girls are snitching. You better start in catching kings. No more drunken brawling flings." Carl sure is some pal of mine, fixed me up really fine. He's about the same amount of help as trolling through a ball of kelp. Third season. I don't exactly tell her lies, but my wife was getting wise. When my boat returned to the buyer's dock, the lack of fish came as no shock. I'd say the weather was bad or the boat was stale or come up with some other forlorn tale. My wife would shrug and say, "Aw, honey, we got more than just plain money." But this time when I came limping in, missing her was her cheerful grin. She said, "I've checked the other boats. They're full of fish and hardly float. Don't sing me your mournful song. I think I know just what is wrong. So don't tie up, you lazy lout. You and I are going out. I want to see with my own eyes the source and reason for your lies. Other fishermen have wives who lead far superior lives. While I'm totting pails and mops, they loll around in beauty shops, and as I attack the household chores, they browse around in clothing stores. They drape their form in latest fashion, while I get by on skimpy rations. So head this boat out to sea. This time it's fish and you and me." By golly, I was in a spot. Whether we caught fish or not, my face has a sheepish grin, another splitter coming in. Did I miss a page? No. My wife has a sheepish grin, another splitter coming in. My wife's face shows no emotion. She says, "Oh, what a lovely ocean. This fishing surely is a blast. I see through your lies at last. All this time you had me thinking that fishing was really lousy, stinking, but now I see that it's quite easy. It's not splashy, it's not breezy. From now on, remember, honey, you and I will roll in money. So take me back, this trip will end. Now I have some coins to spend." The buyer did a double take, so many fish, so short a trip, peeling 20s from his money clip into my wife's steel-like grip. And as she disappeared from sight, consider me my mournful plight. Barely time to top the tanks and head back for the salmon banks. I now must fish in mortal fear and dare not think of drinking beer. So I ask you to take pity. If you find fish, please tell poor Smitty.
John Palms, you follow Ron McDaniel.
Will Horniak, Milwaukee, Oregon, birthplace of the Bing Cherry, where Kellogg and Johnson Creek meet the mighty Willamette. I wanted to do a Clem Stark poem to finish, and I thought it might be kind of fun for us all to say hi to Clem. So we'll make a little video. So on 1, 2, 3, we'll just say hi, Clem, and hoop and holler. Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Clem. These are your people.
We miss you.
Look at this crowd. No wonder you didn't show up. Jesus. All right. Well, Clem to me is the gold standard for poetry and also for being a human being. And I wanted to finish with my favorite poem of his, Rainer Maria Rilke Goes Construction, right? Leave it to Clem Stark to put one of the greatest poets of the 20th century on a construction site, you know? And he knows 5 languages, but on the construction site, he doesn't know his ass from a 2x4, and we love it. I try to imagine Rilke showing up for work one morning on the construction site. His sad, dark eyes and drooping mustache, conspicuous under the yellow hard hat. Not to mention the angels accompanying him. That's the new laborer, somebody says. He can't hardly speak English, says somebody else. And then, as if on cue, all the bosses I've ever worked for merge and descend on him in a cyclone of animadversion, which means severe criticism. Angels scatter like dandelion fluff. Rilke is visibly shaken. I can see the poor bastard doesn't know which end is up, and so I take him aside, and in a friendly way I say, Rainer, get your ass in gear. We got work to do. Quit fooling around with them angels. Or I take another tack. I back off and ask him something technical like, what is the sound of a jackhammer breaking up concrete in heaven? He doesn't savvy. But later at coffee, I ask the other laborers how the new guy's working out. And one of them says affably, not bad for a poet. Everybody likes him. I can't get over it. He's just one of us, the plumber foreman tells me once. They call him the Dutchman, or just plain Kraut. As in, hey Kraut, get us some 8-foot 2x4s, will you? At night, he hits the bars, and I hear stories how the women really go for him. His accent, his sensitivity. The upshot of it is this scenario. Rilke goes on to great success as a construction super. I drop out, get steady work, fixing doors and mending broken windows, healing the wounds in old buildings. Now and then I get a letter. He always asks, what is the sound of a jackhammer breaking up concrete in heaven? Clem Stark.
John Palms, you're on deck, and Annie, Hal Adams is in the hole.
Ron McDaniel, Sulphur Springs, Arkansas. For so many of you have molded and shaped me in 17 years here. 2 of you have been long-suffering. I attend Jon Broderick's writing workshops, and then that human sweet and sour sauce, the witty, the charming, the profound stopwatch Gestapo Mo Bouster has worked for years to try and shape and mold me. And so I want to encourage you that your rebellious student, although it takes a long time, does learn. Thank you for that confusement of not knowing what the audience was supposed to do at that point. Welcome. 92-year-old legendary cowboy, Boots O'Neill, who still draws wages at the iconic 4-6's ranch, recently said, "You must like suffering to be a good cowboy. How much more to be a good fisherman?"
All right, how's that? Let's see, we'll try it over here. Okay, Annie Howell Adams. I'm from Friday Harbor, Washington. I used to salmon troll at a Sitka. Spring fever. Each spring, Carl would join the migration north to Alaska to salmon fish and return in the fall to overwinter in the fresh water of Union Bay at Fisherman's Terminal in Seattle. His long career reached back to another time in the fishery, before quotas, freezer boats, for that matter, before electronics. I met Carl at Fisherman's Terminal, where he kept his salmon trawler, the Grace, during the off-season. He wore a gray Woolrich jacket and leather deck shoes, both of which he bought at Seattle Ship Supply, the only store where Carl shopped. His boat, a classic 38-foot double-ender, was white with gray trim. Everything about the Grace was ship-shape, like Carl. The boat had the kind of elegant lines that would make anyone with the slightest streak of adventure want to drop everything and go trolling in Alaska. I don't remember seeing Carl in greasy work overalls, like every other fisherman at the docks. There wasn't a streak of rust or paint that needed redoing. The Grace never seemed to age. It was as if there was a perfect equilibrium between the boat and Carl. He took care of her, and she took care of him. On a day too wet to paint, Carl invited me over for coffee. He asked if I knew how to make the trip up north. Down in the forecastle, he unrolled his well-worn charts with coffee stains and his own meticulous notes. He gave me instructions for the journey north, where to anchor, where to catch fish, and where to wait on weather and tides. I was grateful for his advice. I asked Carl about a particular lure, a fin spoon. The spoons were made in Petersburg in the 1920s. They had a design of a little person holding their arms up to the sun. I had one of those. Let me look. Reaching back into one of the cubbies, he pulled out an old cardboard box. Take it. I won't be using it. Carl handed me a fin spoon. The bronze lure was still wrapped in its original tissue paper. Later that summer, I put Carl's fin spoon on a fresh leader and lowered it down to the bottom. The fin spoon caught a king salmon, a mighty fish that dressed out at 58 pounds. After I landed the fish, I took the lure off the gear. It had the kind of luck I wanted to keep. A long wet winter followed with months of dreary Seattle weather. I saw Carl walking down to his old dock, his hand tucked into his gray Woolrich jacket. A look was in his eyes. I could see the warm days of spring were stirring in his blood. I wondered, what does an old fisherman do when he doesn't fish anymore? It's been a long time since my last salmon season. No boat to fix, and I don't miss that part. I like to take a walk once in a while down to the docks and take in the ambiance. But it's not the same. I'm not in the game anymore. Sometimes in May, usually it's just in May, at about 6:15, I look out across the water and it feels like it's time to start the engine. Seabirds head offshore, the air is cold and crisp, the coffee's on. It's time to catch the morning bite. The salt is stirring in my blood. Sometimes memories are blurred on the edges. I look down and I see my fin spoon on my keychain. The lucky one with the little person holding their arms up to the sun. The very one that caught the mighty 58-pound king salmon with the fin spoon that Carl passed on to me, sitting in the forecastle of Grace. Carl made sure I knew how to make the trip up safely and come back in the fall to overwinter in the fresh water of Union Bay. We were part of the cycle that begins every spring when fishermen come alive to get ready again for the next season in the cycle of spring fever. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm John Palms. I'm from Juneau, Alaska. And I've been there 57 years and I'm guilty of hand trolling. So I remember the Grace, and that's when I thank you very much for doing this, okay? And for having me here. It's like this is the only place where, you know, there are quite a few people in the crowd that actually understand what is going on in our heads. Anyway, the fact that I know the Grace, and last night there was a guy that read a poem. He's an older gentleman in his 80s, I'm sure. Anyway, he was talking about fishing in the laundry. Well, I fished in the laundry. I know where that is. Anyway, it's just incredible that you can come down here and do that. And anyway, so I spent the best years of my life working on a boat named after somebody else's ex-wife. That's the chorus of what I want you. It's your assignment is to go forth and make up verses for that song. Anyway, so this is just a really short thing. It's like there was a Fisher poetess that I won't say what was going on, but she confused me. So this is written for her, but it's called The Girl in the Seine Skiff. The girl in the Seine skiff, only woman in our crew. So good with that boat, that big diesel too. She sees everything, thinking ahead of the wheel and the web, thinking ahead of the tide and the rips. Our cute little sister, the girl in the skiff. Grew up on a seine boat. She made men's web too. More than once she spent all night at work on the net. She's also beautiful, I might mention that too. Now so conflicted, now what to do? Just 2 weeks left in the season, going so well. Now each day's confusion. Is this heaven or hell? See, the girl in the skiff, she gave me a kiss. Now I don't know what it meant, but I cannot escape. We've all got a crush on her. In our hearts, she has space. But romance on the boat, it just has no place. Guess I'll just hang tough and try to resist kissing her back, the girl in the skiff. Thank you very much.
You're up. Erica Clark, sorry I didn't get you. Actually, did I? John Bradshaw, you're on deck, and Mark and Molly, you're in the hole.
John just looked at me and nodded like I was supposed to be somewhere. It's like, okay. All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Erica Clark. I grew up on boats on and around Kodiak Island, Alaska. And I've called Astoria home since 2018, which is about the same time that I started bothering John and Jay via email. They were kind enough to entertain me, and here I am now. Growing up on boats, I always said that when I grew old, it'd be in a house where I could see the sea. And later on in life, I realized that the ocean and seeing it didn't matter to me as much as knowing that I was near her. I think that we all sometimes forget that the first ocean that we all swam in was that in which our mothers carried us in. And we live in the woods now, on the first ridge line between the Lewis and Clark River and Saddle Mountain. And I can't see the ocean, but I can hear her, much like the first sounds I heard of waves were swimming in my mother's belly, as we all did. And so this is a piece of all the different ways and times that we swim in life. I gotta scoot things over here. So I'm still using the handwriting and torn out pieces. So this is titled, This Way Home, My Love. Swimming beneath the sea, there I'll be a mermaid turned sailor, then back again. Among the kelp beds, as you quickly turn your heads, the splash of a silvery tail in the calm between autumn gales. If you'd asked me where to go, I'd say that you must not know, for the sea is home to me. She envelops me, and she shelters me, consumes me, and renews me. And the longer I'm gone, the quieter her song, yet still thrumming and strumming in the salt of my blood, in the tears that I've shed while going to bed in a land far, far away. Her magnificent sighs brings tears to my eyes, as if greeting a long-lost friend. The ocean will not release her maternal hold and her embrace of my soul. Water in grays, blues, greens, and brown all flow down, down, down. Like a mother, she weaves paths across red rock deserts, valleys, through misty rainforest canopies and across glaciers, and through towns where no green space abounds. And she is calling me and whispering, "Come back to me, my love."
John Bradshaw, you're up. Mark and Molly, you're on deck, and Rob Sykes is in the hole.
Hello, I'm Jon Broderick. I'm from Westport, Washington, 21-year FisherPoet veteran. I was trying to think what poem I wanted to say today, and I'm just going to go back to where it all started. It's a poem about my father. It's called Dick's Poem. 60 years of bar crossings. The old man's been at sea. Salt, it flows through his veins. I think most would agree. You know, he got his start in Tokeland. He fished with his friends Fizz and Fats and his uncles Doc and Ray. Tommy Hilton pullers were paid $7.50 and baiters $5 a day. You know, with a string of gear and the Randy Sue, he had soon made his mark. The dreams of Alaska, they tugged at his heart. So, you know, my father, he followed his dreams. He set a course north. The Hanson's handbook would guide him. There'd be a lump in Mom's throat. You know, for the next 30 years, Cordova was home. Summers spent north. That was the norm. You know, and throughout the years, he made a lot of trips. He always made it home safe. He never sank a ship. You know, Dad worked hard all those years. He helped raise 5 kids as well. He taught his 3 sons to fish. Now we ride the swell. He's 80 years old. He's still going strong. He's driving the Carinel and we're filling the hold. You know, I fish with him now. Don't tell him, but I'd do it for free. Without all his knowledge and guidance, where the heck would I be? We're crossing the bar. I see that gleam in his eye. Another day at sea. Another day alive. It's a poem about my father. He's not with us anymore, but, you know, I think about him every day. And once again, I want to just say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for attending. This is the highlight of my weekend every year. And I'm sorry, I feel blessed to be up here. Thank you. We'll see you next year.
There we go.
What do you think of that?
Whatever works for you.
These
honey.
people are important. We got to get this right.
That's right. We got to share this guy too. This song is a song I wrote called Home Again. Probably we're all thinking about that today. And this is a lot of different ways we think of it. The very many different places and ways that we can feel at home. And I hope
you
you'll
deserve
join.
this song. We had so much fun with you. We love you.
We love you. And we would love for you to sing the chorus. You're going to get it right away. Here we go. On a catboat, traveling light. Wind by day and stars at night. On deck below, I'll hold you tight. Here I'm home again. Here comes your part. Home catch me unaware. Oh, the times were rich when you were there. Oh, love and laughter everywhere. Pastimes bring me home again. Oh, oh, pastimes, pastimes bring me home again. Here I'm home again. Oh, take me where the wind may blow. It's not the place that makes it so. It's who I'm with and how we go. There I'm home again. There I'm home again. Here I'm home. We better do this. Can we do it again? I think we better. Here I'm home again with all of you, yeah. Here I'm home again. Thank you for making us feel at home.
Rounds up. Jefferson Holland is on deck and Mo Bouster's in the hole.
Everyone else said it. I'm going to say it too. I'm really grateful to be here. Grateful that everyone else is here too. This is a big part of my life. Okay, I have a racial profiling piece. I hope no one's offended. I got the idea reading about genetically modified salmon, and they take one that puts on weight quickly and combine it with another one that puts on weight quickly so they can come up with something that, becomes marketable fast. So anyway, this is called genetically modified fisherman. It's a well-known fact among those of us in the fishing industry that Norwegians and Portuguese are born with the knowledge of how to catch fish. The rest of us got to figure it out as we go. We Scotch-Irish Germans seem to figure out how to catch fish by figuring out all the ways not to catch fish first. There's been many times I've been stuck behind some Norwegian or a Portuguese waiting for them to get done unloading when I've had lots of time to consider how different life would have been had Mom been Norwegian and Dad a Portuguese, or vice versa. Thank you.
Wow, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. I want to do a special thanks to all the volunteers who made this weekend.
Here, here.
I'm Jefferson Holland. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. and this is my second year here. They invited me back. It's amazing.
Come back.
So I've been up and down the Chesapeake Bay and everything from a 100-year-old skipjack to a nuclear submarine, and it's just a marvelous place. But it used to have pirates. Well, you might have heard the old men speak of the time pirates scavenged the Chesapeake. Here's a tale of one pirate, a bold picaroon, who scoured the bay at the dark of the moon, swept down on his prey like an eastern typhoon, his cannons ablaze with a flash and a boom. Captain Doubloon was the scalawag's name, and you don't want to hear how he's won his ill fame. He ate hot pickled peppers in porcupine chowder, seasoned with sulfur and blunderbuss powder. Slopped in a goblet, he'd slobber it down, and his belch could be heard 29 miles around. Just the heat from the peppers had to suffice, for his veins carried nothing but water and ice. It's a cold-blooded creature he happened to be, with no trace of mercy or charity. He'd capture a ship, make the crew walk the plank, and he'd never say, "Please, you're welcome," or "Thanks." One night, as the cabin boy opened the door of the captain's cabin, he saw there hunched over a chart old Doubloon and his wicked sidekick, their fierce faces lit by the sputtering wick of a whale oil lantern hung from a low beam that swayed as they plotted, conspired, and schemed. The cabin boy, Fitzhugh McCoy, was known as Bonnie Hugh. When he slogged in with the captain's grog, he overheard the two conspiring to attack a town, wreak havoc in the streets, and steal any ships that were tied to the slips to build their pirate fleet. Bonnie Hugh cried when he spied the chart, felt a chill in the nape of his neck, for the town they had picked was Annapolis, the spot marked with a black X. Annapolis, poor Bonnie cried. They're going to attack it. They're going to burn it to the ground, and then they're going to sack it. Why, he'd swim ashore to warn the town, but that would court disaster. For Hugh McCoy was a servant boy who had run away from his master. And runaway servants in those long ago days were treated no better than if they were slaves. If he showed up at his master's house, they'd beat him with a cane. They'd lock him in their pillory stocks and shackle him in chains. So swimming ashore to warn the town of the picaroon's intent would only get poor Bonnie Hugh in deeper trouble yet. Hugh paced the ship, hoping to trip in a good idea or two, when the sun went down and the moon came around and Annapolis came into view. "Man the guns!" the pirate cried. "Prepare to bomb the town. There's gold in this box for the man who knocks that new church steeple down." And as the pirates aimed their cannons by the light of the rising moon, Hugh McCoy went down below to grope about in the gloom. He stumbled into the galley where the cook prepared a snack for his messmates who were up on deck preparing to attack. He stirred hot pickled peppers into porcupine chowder, seasoned it with sulfur and blunderbuss powder, all slopped in a goblet all greasy and brown. He climbed up the ladder to pass them around. Meanwhile, Hugh crouched in the corner by the hot stove's glow. "A fire," he gasped, the gas ball inspired. "I'll stop the attack, set the whole ship on fire." And he scooped out a pot full of hot glowing coals and scrambled to spread them around in the hold. And meanwhile, up on deck, all the gunners were ready to fire at the State House dome and the new church spire. But before they could set off the guns with their matches, huge balls of flame leapt up from the hatches. "Abandon the ship!" came the cry of despair as the billows and sparks lit up into the air. And as the pirates slid frantically over the rail, the fire leapt up into the rigging and sails. And so the ship sank with her holds all aflood, her bows split in the air and her stern in the mud. And the pirate, he climbed to the top of the mast, and he roared at the fate that had met him at last. "Buy me hot pickled peppers and porcupine chowder, seasoned with sulfur and blunderbuss powder. I'll get at the vomit that scuttled me ship," he roared and pulled at his beard with his fist. Meanwhile, the cabin boy bravely sailed by in a barrel, knowing his life was in imminent peril. "'Twas I sank your ship, my dear Captain Doubloon, you pitiful pirate, you old picaroon." "You," cried the captain, "you're just a wee snit. You burned and you scuttled me beautiful ship. I'll be plotting to plunder Annapolis's ruin, but you, Bonnie Hugh, this is all your vile doing. And the boy cried out, "Fire on you, Captain Doubloon. You'll not go a-plundering anytime soon. When the governor hears of my deeds on this day, he'll grant me my freedom though I ran away. But you pitiful old picaroon, you'll swing from the gallows tomorrow at noon." "Strike me dead if that's true," cried the old picaroon, as obliging black clouds came and covered the moon, from which lightning flashed down with a crack and a boom, sending the old picaroon to his doom. And after the captain blew up in the air, little white drips seemed to drop everywhere. Little white drops of icy pirate's blood, so it fell into the bay. Each icy blob of pirate's blood, twirling its own way, became a stinging jellyfish, they say. Or perhaps they lied. But if you take a summer swim out on the Chesapeake and you suddenly emit a rather noisy pirate shriek, you'll have felt the jellyfish's sting, the fierce sea nettle's wound. That's the sting of the pickled pepper from the blood of the bold picaroon.
Mo, you're up, and then Carrie Jones, you're on deck, and Alana, you're in the hole.
What's up, everybody? How's that full moon treating you? Got some sensitivity? Are people feeling their feelings?
Yes.
I wonder if there's a poet here who, I want to just thank all the poets who did the contest last night. The rules were wild, and I didn't really know where they went and how they were going, and I was real well supported by the judges, and I want to thank you for that. It's interesting when we make a rule that something is supposed to be 30 seconds, you get called Gestapo. Weil für mich, das ist so hässlich, wenn ich Gestapo genannt bin. Seit ich ganz klein war, hat Leute zu mir gesagt, du bist doch Nazi, weil du Deutsch sprichst. Und so, ich sage an euch alle, es tut mir leid, entschuldigen. I'm sorry. Tabron orm. In Irish, to say I'm sorry is I'm covered in sadness. And my nephew pointed out to me, he's like, I like that, instead of saying I am sad, because then you can move through it. So I want to move through something with you all. Is there a poet here tonight, this morning? I can't tell. Who spoke who performed in Japanese and in English? Are you here? I didn't catch your name. And I just want to apologize to you. Because when you were done, I was so startled that I now also had to figure out boat place names in Japanese. That I created a new rule for the Fisher Poets, which was poems had to be in English. Or German, weil ich Deutsch doch spreche. Alles Guelge, but my Irish isn't as good as my German. Meine Großeltern stammen aus Deutschland. My grandparents come from Germany. They came during the war. Right before the war, 1928. There was no food there. The sanctions delivered on Germany, which was a young nation of about 50 years old, destroyed the working people. There were hardly any men of marital age in the town, so my grandmother married beneath her and then came to America. And my people from Ireland are far more colonized. Our language is beyond our reach. Our legacies are child beating, wife beating, terror, anger, alcoholism. Probably a little fishing in there too. And I want to apologize to that poet. There's a young person, I think a young person, I don't know, a farmer, on the Instagram thread who contacted the Fisher Poets and demanded an apology from me, which I'm happy to give to the poet. But I don't appreciate the idea that as a human being who is fallible, that I have to submit to a demand. And I want to respond to you with love, whoever said they might not come back to the Fisher Poets. And I want to respond to you with love and vulnerability. Like, I'm for inclusion. It's important. And I think it's interesting that I'm the one that got the complaint. I also got booed for not asking people to take their clothes off. Just want to point that out. And I just want to say, vulnerability is the key to strength. I love you guys. And if, in the pain that we're all in, subjected to white supremacy the way that we are, all white people come here from somewhere else. My aunt got sent home with a note pinned to her coat during the war when she was 5. She couldn't speak English. And they said, don't come back until you can speak English. My grandmother never stopped thinking she was going to get kicked out of this country. I understand that it's a terror to ask somebody to only speak in English. I understand that. And I hope that this little performance art piece helps us grow, all of us, and reminds us of the thoughtless things that we do when we're confused in the moment. Happy full moon, you guys. I have an apple. My grandparents were apple farmers, and just out of healing the lineages, I wanted, if the poet was here, I wanted to offer him an apple. But they're not here.
Carrie, you're up. And Alana's on deck, and Amy, you're in the hole.
Hi all. Man, it's so good to see you. This was a request from early on. Sometimes we fall down, we smash into things and hang on, barely. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes it's cold and it seems you can't get enough clothes on. Sometimes it's blowing rain and ice and really hurts. Sometimes it's a challenge to make the body work right. Getting up in the morning, hands like clubs, numb, unfeeling. Sometimes the Charlie horse in your leg gets you up and you're pacing the galley floor, so ready for it to stop. Sometimes it's trying your patience to work on deck with those that you have to work with. Sometimes you're pressed to keep your cool because a greenhorn doesn't think they should have to do their job. Sometimes they just don't get it. Sometimes you work well together, even when you don't like each other, because, well, that's what you do as a deckhand. Sometimes it works really well, and you feel close to that person you work with on deck. The closest you felt was someone in life, at least for a while. Sometimes the plans for a great season end up a broker. Sometimes you don't know why you're there. Sometimes it's the biggest run in history. Then you remember. Sometimes it's the greatest place to be. Thank you all for being here when we remember. Sometimes this is the greatest place to be.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not just me. Mo asked about the moon and our feelings, and I've cried more this FisherPoets Gathering than I ever have any other year, and that's saying a lot. I feel like there is a room that exists, maybe for you it takes another shape or another form, where if you ever leave it or close the door, you come back and somehow there is a fresh pile of causes and fights and efforts that require your attention or clamor for them. Whether it's the never-ending fight to protect our land and our waters, to give it back to the people who it was stolen from. 7 years ago, it was the Me Too movement. 3 years ago, it was demanding, trying to let the world know, trying to convince the world that Black Lives Matter. And this year, it's demanding a ceasefire on the genocide in Palestine.
Yeah.
And I want to say that to every button checker and every faithful guest who never performs but comes every year, to every organizer and to every poet, to every jokester and to every activist, that you collectively make up the magic that fills my well and makes me want to keep on keeping on. So thank you. And Mo, you fucking floor me every year in some new way. And I keep thinking like it could never be topped, and that's stupid.
Because it's gotta be topless.
This is a poem I wrote this year, and I read it last night at the 10:15. It's called Something to Prove. And Ron mentioned something about suffering that I really related to that you'll see in this poem as well. I was raised by a woman who always felt like she had something to prove. So I grew up feeling like I had something to prove too. Maybe it had to do with the fact that she was shorter than most of the 5th graders she taught. Maybe it's because she's a middle child. Maybe it's in her DNA. Maybe being larger than life is what kept her safe as a child. What do I have to prove? I'm not really sure how to tell whether I enjoy doing things that just so happen to shock most people, or whether I enjoy shocking people, so I choose to do those things. Some of you relate. It matters in the sense that if I find the answer, I'll understand myself more, and that's a thing that I want. But also it doesn't matter in the sense that there's literally no way I will ever know the truth. So anyway, that's how I got into commercial fishing. And this need to prove myself to a world that I owe nothing to by way of accomplishment, it's not the only reason I fish, I assure you. I also fish because it has consistently provided me with some of the most magical experiences of my life. A life that was already full of magic. Mundane magic. Extraordinary magic. Quick little spells. Long, drawn-out secrets with long, drawn-out effects. I'm addicted to this magic, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. For the most part, this addiction gives back to me. Laughter, money, a clearer set of lungs, and too many good stories to recount. But it takes a lot too. My body hurts. Bonds back home are tested. I miss other opportunities while I put the rest of my life on hold. I look around at the cast of characters on my boat, or lined up at the tender, or tied up at the dock, or walking to the bar. I wonder if they're all here because they also have something to prove. I know we're not all the same, but some of us are in some ways, and I wonder what it is they're trying to tell the world. To some extent, we're all masochists here. The pain is gratifying. It gives us permission to sleep hard, to puff out our chests. Permission to feel like we did something worth doing. I know I don't technically have anything to prove. I don't owe you anything but human decency, and I certainly don't owe you an explanation. But until I figure out the answer to that impossible question, I think I'm going to keep doing big things and shocking some people along the way until my body says no more. And even then, well, old habits, they die hard.
Melanie Brown, you're on deck, and Robin, you're in the hole.
Boy, there's some really tough acts to follow. I promise I'm not going to take my shirt off, and I don't have the ability to tell a story like that pirate story. Oh my gosh, I was captivated on the edge of my seat. But I do have to say this is my very first anniversary with Fisher Poets, and I just want to say a huge thank you for letting me come back and continue to grow as an artist. I know after last February at this event, I was so inspired by each and every one of you and empowered to just go out onto the ocean and create. And so this is my creation that I made while fishing, and totally annoyed my captain with it for about 4 months straight. So this is a real story from a couple years ago. We started on the prairie in search of the grand Chinook, the prize of all the salmon, if you can persuade them to bite your hook. Aha, the birds and whales, surely the kings are here. So we ran back to our troll pit and quickly set our gear. The prairie was looking promising, so we gave it our best effort. Back and forth we tacked, but the prairie was a desert. With disgruntled sounds in motion, we surely pulled our gear, to the waning of our enthusiasm and waxing of our fear. Captain throttled up the boat, turned her south away from Canada. Surely we will find some bait between here and the Williput. So hour after hour, he just stared at the blank screen, praying to see bait fish, viewer to a dismal scene. Down past Destruction Island, then down past the casino, and somewhere out in front of the Williput, a pitiful sound did grow. No feed, sounds my captain's hypnotic cry, 6.4 knots through crested waves on a southern bearing we ply. In the midst of all the muttering, as if a light bulb had turned on, Captain jumped and turned towards me, and I responded, "Yes, dear John, you know,
For old time's sake, I think I know where to take a look. For I have caught 1,000 kings right off the head of Tillamook. So with a glimmer of hope, we kept pushing to the south until we slowed the boat just past the Columbia's mouth. We threw in our spoons and hoochies onto that ancient tack and towed from above terrible Tilly down past beautiful Haystack. This is where dear John reminisced on his childhood of all the kings in Coho caught back when the dory days were good. With trucks and trailers, the men would gather there on Cannon Beach. Little Johnny running amongst them, learning all they'd teach. The son of a fisherman, he'd deckhand for his seat in the final glory days of the dory fleet. But alas, here we are now, and not one fish on our hook. Let's just pull our gear, he says, with a saddened look. 6.4 knots through crested waves, we set out on our southern bearing. No crab spawn, no anchovy, not one single herring. No feed, I listened to that entire second day as we searched off Garibaldi on that 28th of May. Further down the hill it happened, there at Cape Lookout. The birds were startled off the water when Captain John began to shout, "What is the phase of the moon? Where has all the feed gone? The water's clear and blue and the temperature's all wrong." It's a scene I've seen 100 times when their judgment begins to cloud. 'Cause there's nothing in the world like salmon fishing that can make a grown man pout. Pacific City to Cascade Head, Cape Foul Weather to the rock pile. No feed, mile after mile. Then there came the banter across the radio. Pumper Tom saying he has 60 when everyone else has 0. I've learned a lot about my fellow men and the character of a guy, 'cause there's nothing in the world like salmon fishing that can make a grown man lie. Out on the banks, Captain yelled, "We are running again this whole second night. We will not slow this boat until the abandoned high spot is in sight." And so it was that we slowed the boat on the 29th at dawn, almost 50 hours without sleep, running off coffee and a yawn. I'd heard a dozen stories, abandoned high spot, home of the Grand Chinook, the biggest in the Pacific, coming up on every hook. And so with anticipation, we threw in all our leaders. Instantly with joy, we started catching feeders. At 9 a.m. it happened. The hardest a spring has ever pound. It was on our starboard main, the hardest I've seen a pull shake. I felt it in the deck, it made the whole boat quake. It was at that moment the silence was finally broke. We will never catch this king unless we give it a 30-minute soak. And so time crawled by, minute after minute. Everything else in the world vanished. We were fully in it to win it. After the 30 minutes, John began to pull the line. He ran that East Hope smoothly as he took his time. As each clip emerged, I did a dry, hard swallow until from the depths came a gigantic black shadow. So cool and collected, John pulled the giant through the water. It didn't fight, it didn't spin, and John didn't falter. I couldn't believe my eyes at the sight of this 60-pound Grand Chinook, the biggest king I've ever seen, come up on a hook. There at the back of the boat, the three of us locked eyes. The look on that king's face when John swung the gaff was a look of surprise. I'll never forget that moment. When the 70-pound test broke, that Chinook just shook his head like we were just a joke. John ran into the wheelhouse where I figured he'd curl up and die, 'cause there's nothing in the world like salmon fishing that can make a grown man cry.
Hi, I'm Melanie Brown. I fish Bristol Bay sockeye. I came down from Juneau. Yeah, my sets this weekend have been kind of tight and polished, but I feel safe in this environment to try something that I'm still working on. It's supposed to be a song. It's not quite ready to play, but I'll read it to you and maybe sing a little part of it. It's called TEK, T-E-K. It's an acronym for Traditional Ecological Knowledge. It's something that's being acknowledged much more by the fishing and scientific community. And I don't mean to diminish science in any way, shape, or form. It's important. It's really important in our work if we're going to have fish for the future. But it's also really important to acknowledge that tech is real. It's based on completeness, the completeness of knowing a place that hasn't been broken yet. And no research or data set or task force can replace that kind of knowledge. And they need to be working hand in hand, if at all possible, hand in hand. We're starting to see the limits of biomasses and salmon, even in Alaska. And I really hope that we can start turning things around so that we can continue to enjoy what inspires our writing and creativity in this space. Traditional ecological knowledge, tech. It's nice to be recognized for what we know, but please don't just throw us a bone. We are connected to complete systems. We feed ourselves from our home. Our knowledge, it comes from completeness. The completeness of being on the land. A land that has not yet been broken at the hands of greedy humans. A data set cannot recreate what has been broken. The facts won't make us whole again. What we have already is so perfect. Come back to the land. Our knowledge, it comes from completeness. The completeness of being on the land. A land that has not yet been broken at the hands of greedy humans. Tech is not just anecdotal or quaint. Our traditions plug us directly into place. Ecologies that are functioning and alive. What a pleasure to be in this kind of space. Our knowledge, it comes from completeness. The completeness of being on the land. A land that has so much to teach us if we would only take the time to understand.
Robin, you're up. And Jay Speakman's on deck.
I
I'm Robin Koger from Eagle River, Alaska. This should take, I've got 3 poems for you today. Should take about a minute and a half. Slamming salmon, soggy skies, still wet from last night's storm. Salmon swimming in a sluice box sea, slamming into set nets, jaws gasping, silently scream, swishing and splashing, struggling against the seas, still sensing the scent of their spawning dreams. Spa day, Cook Inlet mud and sea salt scrub, exfoliating layers of dead winter cells, sweating in a neoprene sauna, followed by a refreshing saltwater cold plunge, seaweed facial wrap, and a manicure of wet sand. Spa day for a crew hand. Beauty and bone. Carved from sinew, tendon, and muscles toned. Hands calloused and cracked. Heads hard and sure. Bent knees and backs. Balancing boats, fish, and fools. Fighting for dollars and respect. Mentoring, mothering, and mending nets. Against Alaska's fisherwomen, I'll take no bets.
Well, I wasn't going to do this because I wasn't feeling so great this morning after 4 hours of sleep, but I figured I'd close it out. What was I doing? Well, visiting with my friends. I got a lot of friends, you know. Some of them come from a long way off. Anyway, I fished lobsters for 12 seasons, and that was about enough of that. 6 of them I was deckhand. So I wrote a blues song. It just had to be done, called the Bait Bagger Blues. I don't want to take this down at the end of this show, so we hopefully make you laugh too. Hard aground in Lobster Town, forecast calls for snow. Brother's going down to Mexico, asked me if I want to go. But brother, I say, I'm working the Daisy May with Captain Haight. Old Haight, he does the hauling. I take care of the bait. Dude's a stick of dynamite, real short fuse. And he's got a reputation. He's hell on crew. 4 o'clock in the morning, roll out of bed, searching around for something to soothe this aching head. Weatherman on the radio, pulling my chain. Whistle buoy's been moaning all night, calling out my name. As if I need reminding of my reluctant rendezvous with that old grinding feeling, the Bait Bagger Blues. Hauling off on the ridges about 20 miles from land, trying to keep pace, spraying my face. I am not your happy man. Staring into the bait stand, bait juice soaking up my sleeves. Tiny eyeballs keep staring back at me. Feel a little queasy on this poor man's pleasure cruise. Let me down easy, Cap. I got the Bait Bagger Blues. Feel like I'm losing my grip. Gotta leave this place. Tell him I'm gonna quit. Captain just laughs in my face. Hake's had too much coffee, got us headed offshore. Hey man, turn this thing around. I can't take this anymore. Used to be a free man, do anything I choose. Now I'm back here at this bait stand all snarled up in the Bait Bagger Blues. We're talking about them old, ramshackle, redfish poison, bone-weary, 40-fathom, slack-jawed, bilge water beaten down and dirty, bilge water blues. Yeah, well, look at that. It's the top of the 12 o'clock hour.
No, I mean, it's really the top of the 12 o'clock hour. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. I have a couple quick announcements maybe for you. Doreen will be over at the gear shack so you can pick up your gear. If you do that kind of promptly, that'd be helpful for her. She and the volunteers over there work pretty hard, Doreen. Thanks for... And those volunteers working pretty hard last night at Xanadu trying to keep people out, and I'm sure they're working just as hard everywhere else, so thank you for that. We have an opportunity. I don't usually make this announcement here, but I'm not sure I spread the word. Down in Cannon Beach, which is where we're from, the Cannon Beach Arts Association has long been supportive of the FisherPoets Gathering, helped us publish a couple of those anthologies and things. And it's a little gallery. If a dozen of you or so wanted to join me down there at 4 o'clock this afternoon, we would love to have you do that. And between 4 and about 5:30 or 6, they'd like to hear from us down there. So I haven't made any sign-ups or anything like that, but if you want to travel down there, maybe you're heading south or back to Portland, or maybe you're coming like me back up to Astoria afterwards. So we got nothing else for you. Just have to say thank you and carry on and come back, and thank you for coming from so far. It's just so encouraging that you do. Anything else, Jay?
How about fall?
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
No, I just wanted to say this is a high point of my year and an excuse to keep writing stuff. So you all keep writing too.
I want to say that. Thank you. If it weren't for the FisherPoets Gathering, Jay and I wouldn't be friends, which is hard to imagine.
Far away, far away, far away across the beautiful ocean, am I bound to sail all alone, far away across the beautiful sea, far away across the beautiful sea.